Hey, what is up, you guys? Welcome back to the Art of Consulting podcast, where we lately have been exploring the journeys and insights of today's most inspiring leaders. And today we are absolutely thrilled to have one of my mentors and role models, Ms. Pat Kaiser, join us. Pat is a dynamic, hands-on leader with a proven track record of building high-performance teams. Her passion, vision, and drive foster collaborative environments and deliver bottom-line results. With extensive experience in operations, marketing, sales, communication, IT, I'm not even done yet, HR, risk management, M&A activities, Pat has served as the president of the Office Professionals and Light Industrial team at Agilus. Agilus Work Solutions is one of Canada's largest independent staffing firms, serving the workforce needs of enterprise clients across various industries. As president, Pat is committed to creating diverse, flexible, and resilient workforces to help clients meet their business objectives. Beyond her role at Agilus, Pat has deeply been involved in her community as the board chair of the Calgary Homeless Foundation and a board member of the Alberta Electric System Operator, ASO. Her leadership and dedication have made a significant impact on each of these roles, certainly on my career and my life. And so I'm really, really excited to dive into Pat's journey, exploring her experiences with you, challenges, and the insights she's gained along the way. Welcome, my dear Pat.
Kat, it's so good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, as I mentioned prior to coming on air, you are a wealth of wisdom, especially as a female in a male-dominated industry. I mean, we can't dispute that despite however much progress we've had, and we have had tremendous progress. I don't want to detract from how much progress women have had on the IT industry, but I feel like you stand as a role model for future generations, certainly myself, as a female in a male-dominated industry, as a senior executive. So can you share a little bit about I guess maybe let's start with your sort of like a synopsis of your career. Like, how did you get to where you are today? I know that's a broad question.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, honestly, I fell into it. I had been a part of a startup that was a spin-off out of SaskTel. And on the day that we sold the business and I sold my shares, my neighbor, who was a friend, was a recruiter and had a job posting she was trying to fill, and it was a salesperson in an IT consulting company, and she asked if I would at least do her the favor of going on the interview, and I did, and I got the job, and that was with Montage, a company that you also know well.
I do.
So that's how it all started.
Wow. And so at Montage, I know you were now, I'm not sure because when I joined that company, you were already one of the leaders in marketing specifically. So was that the role that you had interviewed for and got, or where did you start?
So at the time, and this is I'm going to say 1994-ish, they were looking for a salesperson for the Calgary branch, and the business had been really starting to grow, and so I got the job. Probably a month later, we had won a large RFP in our Ottawa office, and so half the Calgary team left to go consult on that project, and I was left sort of holding the bag, and so very quickly went from being salesperson a month earlier to branch manager, and trying to find business to get everybody off the bench, as we say, and working. And fast forward over the next few years, our Calgary branch flourished, as did all of our other branches. And so I really ended up becoming an operational leader first and foremost.
Amazing, amazing. And so I didn't realize that you started off at Montage in sales. So very few of us, now I know that when I was being in a consulting role, in a consulting, like as an employee of a consulting organization, which I was at that point, you really do, like my entire prerogative was like, I want to be able to use my consulting skills for clients. But previous to that, there has to be an opportunity for which to use your consulting. That's where sales people come in.
Yeah.
How did you, like, you would have had your own series of contacts for sure, but can you share a little bit about what life is like as a salesperson in IT?
There's a lot of parallels, I think, being in sales and being in consulting, quite frankly. So as a salesperson, it's really important that you, first of all, network. You have to develop your roster of contacts. Hopefully, some of those contacts, convert into clients where you can then bring people like yourself in the consulting world in to help them solve whatever problems they're facing from a technical perspective. And I think it's just the old adage that, people buy from people. And so establishing a strong relationship, getting to know them as individuals, getting them to trust you, because I know that there's lots of software these days and you respond to RFPs with your proposals and those have to be well written. But at the end of the day, the person that's signing off is looking at cost, is looking at quality, but they're also looking at the people piece. And it's the person or people that they want to do business with. It's also the team that they want to bring in to mesh with their employees that they also have to feel good about. And so I think I worked really, really hard over my entire career, and I would say in every role that I had, to be a connector, to build strong relationships, to have people understand that I was authentic, I was integral, I had strong ethics as an individual. I was a mom, so I was just bringing all of my mom skills into my sales world. And then I had clients that became great friends, and many of whom are still friends today. And we did lots and lots of work over the years together. So, if I take that in terms of myself and I draw it into the parallels of being a consultant, it's the same thing. You've got to land in an environment. You've got to establish yourself as a credible resource as quickly as possible. You want to make sure that you're building your connections, you're forming your relationships, you're collaborating with your peers that are on the project, and that you're going to do what you say you're going to do. You're going to commit, you're going to follow up. And I think that serves consultants really well, which is why they're invited to come back project after project, or they get renewed and moved on to new projects because they become trusted resources that deliver, no different than, when you're in sales or in an executive role. So I think there's lots of parallels.
I totally agree. A relationship, authenticity and being that trusted advisor is not just, like, it's not an overnight thing. Like, you put in one drop at a time into your, you make a deposit, one drop at a time into this emotional bank account, if you will, that is your relationship with whoever it may be. It may be your prospect. It may be, and I don't really like referring to, people as prospects, right? Because that means you're getting something. You want to get something from them, but they're people. Yeah. Right. And I feel like, and maybe I don't know, I might be biased because I obviously don't have any experience on the other side, but as a female, do you think that we sort of have, and maybe I'm generalizing, so you might disagree, but do you think that we're actually better connectors, and because we're usually, it's not 100% of the time, but usually I feel like females are more intuitive and more in tune with their sort of emotional side.
I don't,
right?
I would agree. I think I have worked with and know some amazing male connectors for sure. But I do think that women just think differently. First of all, I think they allow themselves to feel, right? We are more emotional creatures, or at least I am. And so I use the word, collaborate. And I would say to be a collaborator, to seek out people to work with me, to help me, to brainstorm together, to problem solve together. That was probably my greatest skill and gift that allowed me to rise in the ranks. I certainly was never the smartest, the smartest one in the room. What's the saying? The sharpest knife in the drawer. That was not me. I had the gift of gab. I was probably a bit more confident than I should have been. The fake it until you make it, right? But what I did do is I knew where I was strong and I knew where I was weak. And I really worked hard to bring people into my world that I enjoyed working with that had the strengths that I didn't have. And when you surround yourself with really smart, talented, good people, and you share in terms of where it is that you're trying to get to, what you're trying to build, how you want to get there, and they kind of share that vision, and then you celebrate success, big and small, along that journey. It's a powerful, powerful tool. So, again, I would say to a consultant as well, don't try and be the lone wolf. Don't try and do it all on your own. It's not smart. If you want to, what was the saying? I heard it on a movie the other day and I should have written it down because I will mess it up. But, if you want to go somewhere fast, you do it on your own. If you want to go somewhere far, then you do it together.
I love that.
Yeah. And so, I, like I say, I've been blessed with just working with amazing people.
I love how you said that because that is absolutely true. Like when I look at my own career now, I've been self-employed for a long time, and as you know, like prior to being after being my employee career, and then lately we've developed we've created an organization, like a consulting organization, Blue Sky, as you know, and I really do see the difference of going fast versus going far.
Yep.
Right. And so, yes, thank you again for reminding us of that. And so so there's probably a few stepping stones that I'm missing here, but we went from Montage to, and when I reconnected with you, so there was a time in which we all sort of dispersed from Montage and we went our separate ways, and certainly I did as well. And then, you and I specifically reconnected, when you were with Enable. And what you don't know about that, the precursor to that, oh no, it's nothing bad, is that I conjured you up into my life. So here's what happened in my life to, that made you and I reconnect, is that I actually took some time off to help my husband build his practice. And I mean, long story short, we decided to stay married and not work together.
Yeah.
And so at that point in time, I was really at sort of a low point in my life. Like I didn't like what I was doing. I didn't like, well, I mean, it could really just be summarized as I didn't like what I was doing. In fact, I hated what I was doing, right? And so I really hated my life at that point. And so I was like, universe, please just let me go back into consulting. Let me recreate or get back onto the path of being consultant. Because prior to that, I had gone to work for Oracle, and I was in the States, and I was traveling like 100% of the time. And part of the reason why I left was because I was sick of that travel.
Yeah.
Right? Like I was doing it for, a number of years. And so then I took some time off. Then I was like, you know what? No, consulting that's where I feel good about myself. And then I was like, please let me just get back into put people in my life. And then within 3 weeks, you showed up in my life. Like I reached out to you. I was like, hey, and then you're like, I remember that email. I don't have it anymore, but I remember exactly what you said. You're like, hey, Kat, great timing. Smart Technologies is looking for this and this and that. And then let's try for it. And then that's how you and I reconnected.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and again, smart people that you work with over the years leave an impression. And that would have been, I had left Allstream. We had sold the business. And Montage was sold to what was AT&T at the time. It became Allstream and then became MTS Allstream. I had done a variety of roles, like you, was a road warrior for a number of years, back and forth between Toronto and Calgary, and didn't really feel that I could go much further. I was in an executive level position there. Again, loved the people, had the best person that I reported to. Dean Prevost was an amazing mentor and leader, but I was offered a role at Enable to build up their professional services division. And yes, you were along for that journey as one of my early consultants in helping to grow. So thank you.
You're welcome. No, thank you actually for re-sparking, re-energizing my consulting career. So
yeah, you were there for a while, if I'm not mistaken.
I was there for probably a good 6 years.
Good for you.
Yeah. I had a mat leave in between too. So, so then so you went from Enable, and one of your superpowers is building teams. Absolutely.
Thank you.
There's no question about it. You went from Enable to being the COO of Sierra, right? And
I did.
So, yeah.
It was, I would say outside of Montage, and I'll go back to Montage just for a minute, because one of the things that was so special about my time when I was at Montage was the culture. And culture was sort of a fluffy thing back then. It's funny because now, all the books are about building strong culture. There's the famous saying that culture eats strategy for breakfast. So I think the power of a strong corporate culture has really been recognized over the last couple of decades. But we had a culture that was second to none in Montage. We were called Montagians.
Yes.
That group still connects. So that group still, 30 years later, still gets together. And so everywhere that I went, I was desperate to try and recreate that type of a culture. I take my work very seriously, but I love my fun. So the fun factor when you are spending, 8, 10, 12 hours a day professionally in a work environment, the fun factor has to be present. And there's got to be a way to create a culture where people are respected, they're valued, they're, supported from a professional development standpoint so that they've got the skills to be successful, but where they are lifted up and where they really enjoy coming to work. And I would say Sierra was the organization that allowed not just me, but a number of us to imprint that kind of a culture. So it was a large org. We had, when I stepped into the COO role, I probably had, I think, 1,400 people under me. It was US and Canada. And there was a number of, and we were owned by private equity. So there was a number of structural changes that happened. A new organization was acquired, came in and got blended with Sierra. And we split the business so that it was US was being run by my CEO, and then I was running Canada. And so it shrunk down to probably just under 1,000 people. So it sounds like large, but we were just amazing teams of such talented people. And each office location had a slightly different culture. But the culture that permeated across was one of a love for our clients, a commitment to, serve their needs to the best of our ability, to grow, to win, to be better, and again, to have fun. So we took the fun factor pretty seriously. We really enjoyed each other's company. We had TGIFs on Friday, and as our younger teams became, a little older, more mature with families and spouses, we found other ways. They needed to get home on a Friday night to their families. And so we got creative and found other ways to celebrate our successes and enjoy each other's company. So yeah, it was amazing. 10 years, and it was just a true blessing to be part of that journey.
10 years, my goodness. So that was all, that was pre-pandemic, right?
All pre-pandemic, yeah. And again, we were owned by private equity, so a big part of my role was to get the business ready for a sale. We went out to market in 2014, but it was both US, India, and Canada. And what we learned in that market process was people, organizations, buyers really wanted the Canadian operation. So we went back to the chalkboard and reevaluated what we were trying to do and went back out in 17 with a Canadian only opportunity, and we sold the business to NTT Data Services out of Dallas, Texas in 2019.
How does one do that? So
18, pardon me.
That's right. So you have a Canadian contingent, you've got a US contingent, you've got an Indian contingent. How would you go about, like, would you like separate? I don't know how much you can divulge from, something that was probably pretty well kept, right? But how do you separate them into certain, like, different entities, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we were Sierra Systems in Canada, and the parent organization based out of the US, out of Atlanta, was Sierra Cedar. And we had Sierra Cedar in India that really was our support, mostly for all of our Oracle PeopleSoft instances.
Right.
It's another world that you know well.
Yeah.
And so because we followed the sun, so that team would do a lot of the support and the fixes when we were all sleeping in North America, and then they would hand off. And so they were supporting our clients across North America, Canadian and US. And so when we went, as I said, initially when we went to market, it was to sell the whole business. But there were a lot of buyers that really were just looking to expand their footprint or to create a footprint in Canada.
Gotcha.
And so when we went to market that second time, it was really just as Sierra Systems selling the Canadian business.
Gotcha. So they were probably separate legal entities to begin with.
They were. Yeah.
Gotcha. I see. And then, so from Sierra, you then went to Agilus. I feel like I'm saying that wrong. Agilus?
Oh, you are saying it correct. Yeah, you are saying it right. So, after Sierra, I had a little contract stint at the McKay CEO Forums, but the pandemic then hit in March of 2020. I wrapped up my contract, and then, through a phone interview, I got a job as VP of Corporate Development and incoming president with the Bowen Group, a staffing organization. And the reason why they really wanted to bring me forward was they were looking to sell their business. It was a privately held mom, son, daughter, privately held business that had been around a long, long time, head office out of Calgary, and just an excellent, stellar reputation. But they wanted to sell. And so the CFO and myself had M&A experience, and so we got the business sort of prepared for a sale, and engaged an advisor to help us through that process, and then ended up selling the Bowen Group to Agilus Work Solutions in 2021.
Right. So
2021, 2022.
Gotcha.